we will be starting in about 30 seconds. And welcome everyone to our digital marketing masterclass, researching keywords for SEO, paid, and content marketing. Our instructor today is Matt Bailey. He is the founder and president of SiteLogic Marketing. He is a digital marketing faculty member at Simplilearn. I'm Stuart Creek. I'm a marketing manager here at Simplilearn. I'll just be in the background helping run the slides and polls. And if you would like to ask questions for Matt, best way is to put them in the Q&A function. We will be cataloging those, and a few of them will take live, a few will take at the end in the Q&A section of the webinar. You can also enter information in the chat. Make sure you address it to all panelists. That's the only way that we'll be sure that Matt can see it as well. And as I mentioned, we will be doing some polls. The first one here is two questions. And for those of you on WebEx, you'll see the poll widget pop up. For those of you watching on live streaming, you can put answers in the chat or comments. How much work experience do you have? And we also ask, how are you feeling today because of the stresses of the last year and a half? I want to check in with everybody on that. And we'll give you about another 10 seconds to answer the poll. And the results. So we have a fairly even mix of experience. We have people ranging from college students all the way up to seasoned professionals with more than 10 years experience. And the good thing is that nearly everybody is doing at least okay, and most of everybody is doing well. For the few who are not, who are in the thumbs down category, we hope that this webinar will give you some information that will help improve your mood. And so with that, I'm going to introduce the fellow you see before you, Matt Bailey. He is the president of SiteLogic. He is a digital marketing instructor for the Direct Marketing Association in New York City, an instructor for the OMCP program, and author of Internet Marketing, An Hour a Day, Wired to be Wowed, and Teach an Old Dog New Tricks. And as I mentioned, he is a key member of the faculty here at Simplilearn. So we're very pleased to have him here today for this event. Welcome, Matt, and I will turn the event over to you. Oh, let me unmute you, or you can unmute you.
Hey, thank you so much, Stuart. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you everyone for attending this webinar. This was a little different approach typically to what you've seen. We're not going to do a lot of slides. Rather, this is going to be a demonstration, because if I were to sum up the one skill that digital marketers need to have, regardless of where your focus or your concentration might be, the root of everything in digital marketing is keyword research. When I had my agency, I had an agency for around 10 years. When we would get a new client, we would do keyword research for at least 4 to 5 days on this client. Now, of course, if they were e-commerce, they had products, and so it would last a lot longer. But at its core, we would focus on finding everything relevant about this client, about their business, and what are people saying. And we would examine the keywords in many different ways in order to come up with really so that we would be the experts on the keywords for this client. We didn't rely on the client to tell us everything about their business. We went online to see what other people said and what the keywords said and what people were looking for. So by the end of this keyword research project, every analyst who was working for this client was intimately familiar with the words that people use. So in doing this, we could create better optimization. We could create better paid search campaigns. We could create better content in the content marketing plan because we knew what people wanted. And more importantly, we knew the words that they used. And that is what is so critical about keyword research. I love it. To me, it is the heartbeat of digital marketing because we use these words and we use the intelligence that we find in so many other areas. So I'm going to point them out as we go along, and I'm just going to walk through a project as if I were starting fresh with a new client or someone to find out just how would I start and what would we do. So that's what we're going to walk through today. And if you have specific questions about keyword research, go ahead and put that in the chat. I may not see it because I'm looking at another screen as we go through this, but Stuart's going to keep an eye on the chat here and let me know as some questions appear. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here. Stuart, if I can have the share button.
Yes, yeah, I told you before as we were in the practice session that I would forget to do something like that. So.
That's all right. That's all right.
You should have that now.
Okay. And let me make sure that is good. All right. So you should be seeing my second screen here. And hopefully everything is still working with the video and the screen. And so this is where typically I start. Now, there are many keyword research programs. They are all a software as a service. I use Word Tracker. Word Tracker is probably the one that I have used the longest, and I continue to use it. I love the results that I get from it. Moz has a keyword research tool, Ahrefs, Raven tools. I mean, if you just go to Google and type in keyword research tools or keyword research software, you'll probably get a dozen or more. And so that's, you find one that you like. Many of them will offer a free trial. And so that is very, very helpful to get a sense of how it works and what you can do with it. So I suggest that you take advantage of those free trials to see which one is going to suit you. Also, different keyword research tools will offer different levels in the upgrade. So now I pay for a higher level so that I can get keywords from other countries and other languages. That is also part of this. Not everything is English, and most of these companies are based in the US. So you want to be sure if you're in a regional or a different country that the keyword research tool you select has searches that are native to your country, to your language, because that is a vital part of optimization as well as doing your keyword research. So as you can see here, I'm going to walk through the interface and just kind of show you some of the functions that are available here. Now, one of the first things I like about Word Tracker and what I can do is I can not only search Google. Now, let's start with a couple of myth-busting aspects here. Number one, on any keyword research tool, it doesn't matter who they are, nobody has a direct relationship with Google and can access 100% of all Google searches. All right. Anyone who offers keyword research and offers a Google option, they are using an API and they are getting a small percentage of the actual searches done on Google. There's no way anyone is seeing the full amount of keyword searches done on Google. In fact, even those of you who do paid search campaigns in Google, when you go research keywords in Google, you don't even see the full breadth of searches and the accurate search counts or anything like that. So Google does not share its entire search database. All right. Any keyword research engine is only getting a small fraction of the data, and they are extrapolating that. Now, they're also cross-referencing it with other data from ISPs, from browsers, from many other sources to try and bring that in. And essentially what they do is create an algorithm. And that algorithm will give us estimates on how many searches are done that month. All right. Now, next, here's what I love about this. I can also search based on Amazon. So they also get feeds from Amazon to look at that, YouTube and eBay. So depending upon what you're doing and what your client looks like or what you're doing, it can help to do some keyword research, because you will find that people search differently on YouTube than they do on Google. People search differently on Amazon than they do on Google. On Amazon, it's all product driven. In Google, it's a lot of information driven. On YouTube, it's a little bit of both, but people are actually looking for advice and comparison. And so YouTube is a very interesting way of researching keywords. I'm going to stay with Google, and I'll show you here. So the keyword that I entered for researching a little bit more about is hiking boots. This is one I've done a lot in travel and tourism, and worked with an outfitter many years ago. And this is one area that I just enjoy working with, and because it's got a very broad range of keywords. Now, we've got our keywords here. And now I can also choose the specific territory. Now, as you can see here, I'm looking for US-based keywords, and I've got a full range of other countries that I can search for as well and see if I want to focus down on a specific country or specific area, I can do that. Now, I've put in hiking boots, and as we can see here, what happens is now I have 734 keywords about hiking boots. Now, what this has done, and I'm going to click on this little tool over here, this little gear icon. Now, this should help you. Those of you familiar with paid search, I have two options to search with here. I have a broad match method and an exact match method. I usually go for the broad, all right, because I want to know all of the related terms that people are using when they search for this. I'm at the very beginning of the process. Now, my approach to this, when I'm at the beginning of research, I want as many words as possible. I'm trying to get everything I can. And so I'm going to use that broad match option. And I love seeing that I have hundreds of words related to this. I like it even more when I see thousands, because I really want to get a sense of how broad the scope is when people are searching. So to give a sense here of where we're at, the first option here, as we can see, is hiking boots for women. And that is the first option that's available. Now, here's how we read these columns here. The first thing, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, and this is the historical performance. Now, what you see here in the volume column, that is the average amount of searches every month, averaged for an entire year. Now, what that means is it averages, in this case, 135,000 searches per month. However, that's not true every month. It's just an average. So what we get here in the historical, it shows the trend. Now, later on, I'll probably bring up Google Trends as well to get a sense of how some of these keywords perform in Google Trends. don't always get the same data in Google Trends. Sometimes it changes depending upon how much they are allowing you to see. But this gives me a sense here of showing that there is a significant trend, that it's at its lowest in the January, February, and March timeframe. And then it increases. And I can see here, starting probably around May, June, now it's above average until around the end of the summer, and then it drops off again. So the historical trend line is very helpful to show that it's not every month you get 135,000 searches. It changes. Now, that's something that you need to keep in mind, that if you're doing paid search, you're going to see lower volumes. So you may want to adjust your strategy, adjust your budget accordingly. This also lets you know from an SEO standpoint, when is the big trend? If I know the big trend hits around this May, June timeframe, well, then that lets me know that I need to have content on my site and optimized if I want it to be found in that trend. Also, from a social media standpoint, when do people start asking questions? When do people start investigating? Well, I can see here now, I know the trend. So now I know on social media when to start talking and linking from my social media posts, how-to things, different product guides. I can start publishing them ahead of the trend because I know when people are more actively talking about things. So you can see there's a lot we can learn already about these keywords just from starting to do the initial look. Now, I'll tell you right now, the best tool, all right, and I'm going to, everything's a best tool. If you've heard me for any length of time at all, I love bringing in tools. I will tell you the best thing you can do. I love digital, but here's the best tool that I have when I'm doing keyword research. It is a notepad and a pen, because you are going to get ideas. You're going to see things that you're going to want to investigate later. You're going to get ideas. And the best thing to have is just a notepad and pen sitting on your desk. So as you see these things, you write them down so that you know to go back and do it again later. Don't rely on your memory. You're going to be taking in a lot of information, and you're going to see things. So just like what I was saying is, I see this trend. I want to write the trend down. I want to write down, how will it apply in my SEO? How will it apply in my paid? How will it apply in my content marketing, my social? And also, how will it apply in my analytics? If I'm looking at trends and I'm looking at keywords and I'm looking at this, well, this should tell me that my product pages should increase in traffic around the May, June timeframe. I should expect that. And so from an analytics standpoint, I know what to look for because I know when the trend happens. It doesn't mean all of a sudden that your SEO is bringing in a lot more people, because that's the trend. You should be found more. Your traffic should increase for those product pages. So I hope that's clear so far, what we've covered. Stuart, do we have any questions specifically about what I've covered at this point?
Yeah, we have a couple. One of them, first off, is if the web tracker or word tracker tool is a free tool or a paid tool.
It is a paid tool, but it does have a sort of a free or a limited trial, or an option that you can try it.
Okay. And Denisha asks if the first data that you're showing in this table, in the results here, is this how many women's searches are come up on Google, or is this, as you can you to clarify that, as you mentioned, it's an average?
Okay, yeah. So what this is these are the words that are typed into the Google search bar. And what I'm looking for are what this shows me here are all the variations of the term hiking boots, with words in front and behind. And so that's all I'm asking is, when people type in hiking boots into Google, how many variations are there? Now, I know there's a lot more. So I know Google's not giving up a lot of information, and Word Tracker is kind of extrapolating what it can. So I'm probably looking at about 20% of the available market of what's going on. So this just shows me the variations that people type into Google. So as you can see here, so I've got hiking boots for women, hiking boots women, hiking boots women's. So it's all the variations that people type in of the word hiking boots and the related words around it.
Right. By the way, Word Tracker, Vikrant says Word Tracker doesn't data for India. So which of the other tools you mentioned might be better for the Indian practitioner?
That is a great question. Yeah, I don't see that here. Wow.
I know,
Um, yeah.
that Simplilearn, which is based in Bangalore, uses Ahrefs
Yep.
and SEO Rush, among other tools. So
Yep.
those are some of the options. But
Yeah, those are both very good tools. It's just a matter of preference and what you want to use. I think you can. I think I can upgrade and get India in my word tracker. A lot of them will offer tiers. Like you pay a certain amount and you get English. You pay another amount and you get country specific. And if you want everything, there's like a top tier. So that's how a lot of them will monetize. But yeah, Ahrefs. I forget the other one you mentioned. Ahrefs is probably probably one of the most aggressive as far as gathering keywords from around the world in different countries. So yeah, for India, I would definitely recommend that.
And just to be clear, Gopal asks if there is any way to get the exact search numbers, which I know that Google, Google guards that very, very, very closely. So.
There is no way ever that we will ever see the exact search counts and the exact words that are using in Google. As I mentioned, even if you are working in Google in a paid campaign and you use Google's keyword research tool, Google doesn't even show you the full breadth of searches and how many searches. They give you a sort of a rounded down figure. And really what Google is doing is they will merge, for example, a singular and a plural word together. And so you're not getting individual search counts for the singular word or the plural word. You're getting a single search count. And because Google wants you to bid on one word and they will connect you to others. So it's interesting what Google is doing with keywords. They are taking away more and more data every year and giving site owners, SEOs, less and less information specifically about keywords to work with. So yeah, it's a diminishing resource right now.
One last point before we go on is we have a question that says if you are going to look up tracking boot for different search platforms, do you need to run the search 4 separate times, like once for Google, once for Amazon, once for YouTube?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, those are all separate projects. No, I can add all those words. Great question, because this brings me into the next section here. So I can create a new list. I'm going to create a new list here, and I'm going to call this my keyword project. And I'm going to, and please don't comment on my spelling. This is live, all right? And I'm a terrible typer. And I will call this my hiking boots project. All right, I don't know what happened there, so they'll. All right, so that's my project there. So as I go through here and see all of my keywords, I'm going to go through and select everything that I see that is relevant to what I'm looking for. So if I am selling hiking boots, if I am an outfitter here, I'm very interested to see all of these. Now, shortcut. I'm going to click keyword and everything highlights here. And I can just go through and take a look at the different kinds of things that we have here. And yeah, I'm like all of these, I need to know all of this. So what I can do there is I can save these. and I can put them into that selected list, my keyword project hiking boots, and I want to add to that list. Now, individually, when you click on these as well, it will add to the list. So now, as I can see here, I have a number of pages here. I'll go to page 2, and I'll see all of the keywords that are there. And I believe I added everything to that. So let me save that. Here's my list. There. Add to that list. So yeah, I've got all 734 words in that list. Now, what I can do to really, maybe I want to filter down. I can look in this included keywords here, and I can say, show me all the keywords of, for example, boots for women. So now I'm looking at hiking boots and just must also include the word women. So now I can filter this down. Think about it in terms of an e-commerce site. If I'm going to sell shoes or boots, I'm going to divide by women's and men's. And this now shows me the different keywords that are being used that have to include the word women's. So I've got all the hiking boots for women. Now, this is where I start seeing some differences about how to apply these words. So for example, hiking boots for women, these are all product searches. Someone is the very beginning of the buying cycle. They're just starting to learn about them, and this is what they type in. So kind of your first 5 or 6 are just a very general term people are starting. Now, look at these next 3. And I'm going to actually take off that keyword check so we can look at these 3. Now, this is the next stage in the buying cycle. The next stage is, I want to know the best. So what they are looking for are articles, reviews. They're looking for more in-depth information than just what shoes are available. They're looking for someone's opinion about why these are the best. So that should get your attention from a content marketing standpoint. This is content people want. They want to know what are the best. So if you are selling these, you should have an opinion about what are the best boots. Why? What makes them the best? You have that expertise. If you're selling them and you know about them, then your expertise is what people want. And so when you see best, that is a great indicator of content that people want to see on your site. Now, not just from an article. This would make a great YouTube video as well. Having someone explain, here's our top 3 or top 5, and here's what makes them great. Build a script, give information. People are looking for that. So that should let you know from a content marketing standpoint right away, this is something people want. Now, as we get further down into the list here, we start seeing some ways that we can start categorizing all of these boots, all right? And so number 1, I can start categorizing by men's and women's. I saw that here, and I'm going to make that note here in my notes. But also, the next stage here is, check this out. What we have, you know what these are? Brand names. This next stage here is brand names. So people started looking at the very general, then they want to know the best. Now what shows up next are brand names. So we need to make a note of that. So especially from a paid search standpoint, if I am advertising these products in paid search, it is vitally important to include the brand names, either in the ad itself or in the extensions that I have these brands and I offer them, so that as people are searching for them, they can see that direct link right into the extension. All right, let me uncheck those. So that's what I'm looking for. As I'm going through the large list, I'm looking for opportunities to really categorize here. So I've categorized, I've got brands, I've got best. So people are looking for some level of comparison. And now I'm seeing, so like black. So people are looking for color. Oh, this is interesting. Someone's looking for cute hiking boots for women. So now I can start another category for attributes. Attributes of boots. And under attributes, that's where I'll put, color like black or cute, as someone's looking for here. Um, Now also we'll start seeing other things here like leather or outdoor, which I would think, hiking boots are outdoor to begin with, but people are going to use those words. So it's good to know how people utilize these words and what they're putting in here. We're also seeing lightweight. So this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the adjectives that people use to describe the core phrase that I'm optimizing for. And so this helps as I'm going down through here. Here's another one for brown. Here's another color, another attribute, stylish. So what I'm learning here, as I'm building product descriptions or product pages, I can come up with a description. But from the keyword research, people are telling me what they're looking for. They're providing a pattern of what I can learn and how I can optimize the content. And so I want to keep that in mind as I'm going through here. And that will, it'll help me write better descriptions. It'll help me create better titles and headlines as I am going through my site. All right, so I'm looking through here and it's giving me a lot of good ideas as I'm going through here. Now, by the way,
By the way,
yes,
Matt,
sir.
I had a question that's appropriate to this section.
Yep.
And Andre asks, why would you not do a persona analysis or identity search, search intent analysis before you start idea generation of keywords? And I bet I know what you're going to say.
Like at this point, all I'm trying to do is get everything possible, and then I want to organize it. We're not at the persona stage yet. Okay.
Okay.
The persona stage, it comes a little bit later. So, for example, I'll show you here. Here's a keyword for vegan hiking boots. Now, that lets me know, that indicates I might want to research that persona. I want to look more at that. Right now, I'm just trying to get a sense of the keyword universe that surrounds hiking boots. I'm letting the market tell me what they want. So rather than, I find that if I were to do a persona or something first, I'm going to approach this with some preconceived ideas about who my personas are. To me, keyword research is a listening exercise. It's listening to 100 people in a room tell you what they think. And all I'm doing is soaking it in. I'm soaking in as much information as possible. I don't want to approach this with some preconceived ideas or identities. I just want to know, what are people thinking and what are they typing into Google? And then I'll develop it from there. Now, as I go deeper into my categorization, so for example, if I'm looking for, I'm looking for colors, I'm seeing attributes, those types of things. Now I'll start going deeper into the different categories. And from there, we'll look at how to apply a persona or something like that, because now we've got keywords that that persona would use, and I would apply them that way rather than going about it. But I'll tell you this: whatever works for you. There are no rules to this. All right, you do what works for you. And if you find that that helps you think better, or it gives you more clarification as or direction, then do it. Uh, this is just, this is my process that I've developed. So there's no wrong. Well, it might be a wrong answer here or there, but there's no hard and fast rules about keyword research. That's a great question.
An excellent answer also. And one other just minor thing that came up, we had a question about how minor variations, typos, or the difference between women and women's
Mm-hmm.
affect the results in the keyword research?
Great question. That used to be a lot more important, probably 10 or more years ago. 10 or more years ago, I obsessed over plurals. I obsessed over, women's boots or boots for women. That apostrophe S. 15 years ago, I would optimize specifically for those different variations because it meant something completely different as far as intent. We used to map this out because if someone is searching for a plural, it means they're at the beginning. They're looking for the broad area of what they want. If someone would search singular, it means they're looking for one and they're further on in the buying cycle. Now, fast forward now to 2021. Google has put this all on its head. And according to Google, someone searching for plural and singular is exactly the same. And so they've taken away the data for us to see the amount of searches for singular and plural. They also treat that intent as being exactly the same. And so their algorithm, regardless if you optimize for women or women's, is going to yield the same type of result. According to their algorithm, it all means the same thing. Very similar to no longer, I haven't optimized for misspellings, not since the 90s, because Google does a very good job. If you type a misspelling into Google or any other search engine, they'll immediately show you the corrected spelling and they'll show you the results for the corrected spelling of that word. So don't optimize for misspellings. And if I see those in there, I just look at that as what would be the actual word rather than the misspelling. So great questions. Good.
All right. Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I just added these into my keyword project, and here's what I'm going to do. When I look at that, now I can do this within the keyword tool. Let me take out my excluded keywords. I can look at a couple things here. Now, by the way, some of the columns, here's what you're going to see. The competition. So the competition here, it shows you the amount of competition of websites that are using these words. So for example, hiking boots here has a 33.97. That means there is a high level of competition for that phrase. And there should be. It's a very general, it's the top, the general phrase that's there. Whereas, check this out, hiking boots women's. That combination has a very low competition. It's only 3.97. So this gives you a sense of how many websites are optimizing and using those terms, and it gives you a sense of what the competition level is if you were to start optimizing for that. Now, how are they what's the competition look like? This next column, the IAAT, this means that they are spidering the sites that are ranking for these words and how many websites are using that keyword and IAAT in anchor and title. This means that that keyword is being used in anchor text and it's being used in the page title. That's how we know that someone is actively optimizing for these phrases, and that's what helps us understand the competition level. So that's what's going on there. All right, now what I do, now I'm seeing all these phrases here. You can either do this in an Excel spreadsheet or you can do this here. I like to do this in the Excel spreadsheet. Now I'm going to open it up here in Excel because I show you kind of how I like to deal with this. All right. Oop, and it's not looking at everything here. Let me go back to this. Export. All right. I bring this over here. And now we're in probably one of my favorite tools, and that is Microsoft Excel. As you can see, it has exported just about everything here, but I don't need everything at this point. Right now, So what I'm going to do is actually delete these columns because I can go back and get those. I can save that as another option here. There we go. And I'm gonna delete the content there. Now, I'm gonna organize at this point, and I will start with just a basic understanding. So I can make some initial categories. So women's, men's, and I can also look at searches that can have a brand name. I can also look at attributes like color or feature or something like that. And then also I'm going to look at, and I'm going to make a column here for content. So for example, like I saw best, people are looking for best, they're looking for a comparison. And so I'm going to make a column so that everything, for example, in women's, men's, brand name, attributes, those are things that I'll use for my optimization. I'm going to use those phrases and use those words to implement in the website. When I see people asking questions like best, I'm going to put that in my content plan, in my content marketing plan. So I'm going to make another column of questions people have. What do they want to know? What are things they're searching for? Because if I have the expertise or I know where to go get the expertise, I want to add that into my plan. And so I'm going to add that off to here. And I'm going to keep that so that, and what I'll typically do is, so for example, women's were like the top here. I'm going to copy them and put them over here. So I've got a good sense now of the women's specifically. And then these next ones, men's, make up these next groups. I'm going to copy them and put them over here. And like I said, the next were got some brand names. And then here's my best phrases. And I'm copying that over so I've got the keywords as well as their counts. I want to keep an eye on that so that I know what's going on here. Now, this is interesting because this now helps me. I've got waterproof hiking boots, women. Now I'm starting to get attributes as well as my core phrase here. And this is where I kind of like playing around with the keywords because this gives me a little bit a sense of how people formulate phrases, what I'm looking for here. And let me just take a quick look at some of this to see if it confirms, see what I'm seeing here. Yeah, so example here. Yeah, let me grab that. I'm going to put that up here. Now, one of the things I like doing just to help me understand as I drill down into categories here is my core phrase is hiking boots. That's my core phrase. I'm going to center that here so I have a better idea what's going on. Now, also what I'm looking at, and this just helps me to understand a little bit from a search perspective, and especially if you have an e-commerce site with hundreds of thousands of products, this may help because what I'm looking for here is a feature attribute model that I can apply to these products. So right away, I know that when it comes to hiking boots, and let me play around with the columns a little bit here to help me better do this so you can see what's going on. Probably one of the top phrases here is women's. And what I can do is I can take, that count there, and I'm going to put it off to the side. So I know that in a phrase, the hiking boots for women, actually, I can see it here. I can see women's hiking boots showing up there. Now, I can also look at, on this side, for women. And I can take that keyword count and put it over here. Actually, so this gives me a sense of people are using this phrase as kind of an anchor, and the phrase women is on either side. However, I see for women, women's. Now to Google, that's all going to be counted as the same. This is the big difference in doing keyword research here is I'm going to see more variations. If I were to do this same research in Google's keyword tool, which by the way, I will say, I have not used Google's keyword tool for keyword research now for well over 5 years. You just don't get the dynamics of the words. Google will combine these 3 keywords and call them the same thing and give you the same search count. Very similar to this. As you can see, as I said, day by day, these keyword resources are flying away. Same here, women's hiking. Look at we've got like 3 different ways here. Women's hiking boots, women's without the apostrophe hiking boots. Google is going to show you one phrase. It's not going to show you the 3 different phrases that are here. So I can get a better understanding using a keyword tool like this, some of the nuances within the phrase. Whereas Google's going to combine that into one phrase, and that's all you get. So from here, I want to get a sense of what comes prior to the keyword and after the keyword and let it build. So for example, this phrase here, waterproof. That is a great thing to know. Waterproof comes there. And then also, yeah, and then women was on the other side of that phrase. And then the same thing here, it was both women's waterproof hiking boots. So I can get a sense now when someone is describing an attribute such as waterproof, and I'll confirm that as I go through here, it looks to me like waterproof always comes first and hiking boots comes second. And I'll confirm that as I go through here. So what I'm trying to do is build kind of a mental model or a word cloud of how people use phrases and where they come in relation to my core key phrase, such as hiking boots. And as I go through, I'm going to, very quickly go through here and see, here's another example, women's winter hiking boots. So I would probably add that here as well. So, and that kind of confirms for me, as I see here, the attribute always tends to come prior to the keyword. And then I'll probably see that with the color as well. Color as an attribute will probably come forward. Now, what I'm looking for to see, what will come as a suffix, what will come later after the term hiking boots. And I don't see a lot of that. However, where I do see it are in the very specific product names. Now, what's interesting here is so like the Renegade GTX, the Quest 4D GTX, those are specific product names. So now what that tells me is I need to add another column here, and that will be product searches. That means they are looking specifically, like this Merrill Moab 2. That is a specific product brand name and search. And so especially if I have those products, I want to nail that down and be sure I am doing that. So I'll add that in there. And so that's my next step is doing some organization to find out where these play in and how people are formulating their phrases. Any questions to this point about what I'm doing here?
Yeah, I believe there are. So Manpreet asks, what happens if a keyword has more than one product assigned to it? And I believe this is the process you're going through to show how to distinguish different specific products that branch off of the main keyword.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm looking for is the different attributes and how people search for those attributes. And really what I'm looking for is the attribute in relation to the core phrase. So hiking boots is let me get my cursor over there. Hiking boots is my core phrase. And that's what I want to look at and see how are people formulating this. So now, so I'm not just looking for this to copy and paste my keywords into my site. I can now look at this and find a model or a framework that when I'm optimizing the thousands of products on my site that may not be found in keyword research, or I may not get a guide, now I can create a, women's or men's, attribute 1, attribute 2, product name. and I can almost create my page titles as well as my product names. I could just set it up and pull it all out of a database and have it populate automatically instead of going through and optimizing every single page title or every single product page. If I can figure out the steps or the model, I can just create those categories and let my database fill in the gaps, and that way, it's taken care of. So that's one way I learn from this, because especially if we're dealing with pages with hundreds of thousands or thousands of product pages, that's a lot of work. And if you can make your database do a lot of the work for you, that's what helps.
Okay, that that gets to one of the other questions that I think we might want to explore later, having to do with how to incorporate the results of the research into the website and the pages.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's basically that's the whole purpose of the exercise is to improve your website pages, improve your content, um, and social media as well. So, do you have a comment on how this applies in the context of social media? Is this something that social media
For,
marketers
Yeah,
use?
yeah, exactly. For social media marketing, like I said, when I'm looking for social media, I use social media as a way of extending my content. Social media, I use it with a content marketing plan. So, for example, when I am, and let me pull up a couple of things here to get a sense of this. So, for example, if I were to create an article and a video about, because there's a big opportunity here in best hiking boots for women, best hiking boots for men, best hiking boots, right there, that I can probably turn that into 10 articles and 10 videos or more. So, from a content marketing standpoint, I now have direction as far as what people want to see and how I can create content about that. When I create a video about or an article about best hiking boots and or the 5 best hiking boots for women. Once I create that video, I'm going to take snippets of it. I'm going to take screen captures of it. I will also get brand pictures and I will use that on my social media. And so I will use social media as a distribution mechanism saying, getting ready to buy some boots, don't make this mistake. Or put out a brand name. It's number 2, find out why. So I'm going to use social media to direct people back to my site to see the video or read the article. But I'm also going to be very aware of when people are searching, because now, and I'm going to bring this over here so we can see this as well. So for example, and I'm going to add another here. This is why I love Google Trends. I'm going to take these keywords and I'm going to apply them to Google Trends. And I'm looking here over the past 5 years. And the reason why I'll do a 5-year window is I'm looking to see if there is a specific trend every year for the past 5 years. If I can see the trend appearing every year for 5 years, that means it's going to happen again. That's what I'm looking for. It means it's repeatable. And if it's repeatable, I can plan on it. And I add that into my media or content calendar. I add that into my content calendar because now I know when interest is at its highest. And when the interest is at its highest is when I'm going to be the most active on social media, pointing people back to my content, such as videos, how-to videos, how to fit your boot, how to get the right boot, how to get the right boot for where you're going. There's difference in boots if you're going to a mountain as opposed to if you're going to a desert. And so all of my activity, I'm going to increase my social media activity and where I'm pointing people based on the trends. So for example here, hiking boots as a general category, it is at its highest. Look at this, November, December. Why is that? People are buying hiking boots for people. That's one of the things we found out is that hikers or active outdoor people, they buy their own things. And other people, friends, family, will buy them hiking gear in November, December. They buy for each other. But also, the next biggest trend is in late May. Late May is when people are gearing up for their summer treks and for their summer hiking. So I know that this kind of spring spike, and then there is a November, December spike. So that lets me know exactly when people are starting to look for new products and what they're doing. Now I'm going to pull out hiking boots simply because that is making everything else look really small. So we pull that out. Now look at this. Best hiking boots and women's hiking boots, and they both follow a very similar trend. Again, November, December, we have a spike. And then earlier in the year, here we have like a June, July, I think that was. Yeah, June, July. We see another spike in this, and then another spike in December. Again, going back, here we are in May, we see these spikes. So that's what we're looking for is the repeatable spikes. That's how we know when to start when our optimization should be in full swing. And also in social media, if we're seeing a spike in search activity, we know that people are going to be talking about it on social media and they're going to be looking at it. So I'm going to use my paid search ads. I'm going to use my paid media. My retargeting is going to be at its highest during those peaks because I know that people are searching at that point.
Okay. Kind of a related question. And I know that there's no way to look at trends over time for this because it's not a time trend, but what is your opinion about localizing with things like hiking boots in Colorado, for example? Is that something that people are finding useful?
Yes, it is very useful, especially if you are focusing on a local or regional audience. If you are a local business or a regional business, absolutely. And that is one of the columns. Let me bring that down here. I did not get it. It's amazing how fast this hour goes, Stuart. I got to say that. We may have to bring this up. I'm going to create another column, and I usually do this, and thank you for bringing that up, whoever you are. Fantastic question. Region, location. All right. I'm also going to create another one for time because as people are doing searches, they will also let you know where they are if they're looking in a specific area or if there is a certain date or trend or time that they're looking for. So I'm absolutely going to use this to optimize and find if someone is looking for a region or location. As a matter of fact, let me bring this up here. Where did that go?
It's a great looking cup, though.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's all right. So for example, if I'm in Google Trends, this will break down by state. Now, what it's showing here is the amount of searches, the percentage of searches based on population. So for example, let me pull up Colorado here. What we can see here is the percentages out of searches for all two terms in Colorado. It just gives you a sense that based on population, Hawaii has the highest searches. So we can get down and even break it down by state. And you can see search interest in Colorado here, for example, is really high. We can really get a sense here. So Google Trends will break this down by state or by region. If you're in a different country, it will break it down by the different regions within the country or cities there or metro areas. So it's a great way to do that. Also, let me bring up, yeah, I X'd out of that. Even in the keyword research tool, you can also add in specifically if you're looking at a location and it will give you the keywords for that state or region and you can add them in there. Absolutely. From a local optimization standpoint, yeah, definitely keep those in your titles, in your descriptions, and everything about your business. So, Stuart, I think we have a couple of minutes. We can answer some questions, and we may have to follow this up on another masterclass here.
I would love to do that, Matt, to schedule another masterclass to continue on with some of the other demonstrations you wanted to do. Um, we have an interesting question from Sajid, who is a very sharp-eyed viewer. And he said the fact that the first three-word combinations in one of your results had the same number, exact same number of 135,042 results, it signifies that Word Tracker is getting the same Google data
Mhm.
where Google combines them into one combination. Is that a correct interpretation?
Yeah, Google will combine those into one number. And yeah, because Google is the primary source of data, again, everything is extrapolated. They're running an algorithm and giving you an estimated amount. Now, here's how to use this. Let me show. Here's the key. Where's my where did
Let,
that go?
let me make a quick announcement while you're doing
Yeah.
that.
All right.
So we are at the end of the first hour here, which is the entire scheduled run of the webinar. So we understand if people have a hard stop and need to drop off, we are going to be sending out um, a link to the webinar recording for however long it goes. And we will also be sending out proof of attendance certificates to everybody who made it to this mark. So don't worry about dropping off if you have to. But if you can, please stay and we'll take
Mhm.
just a few more questions from Matt. Don't want to keep him here all
That's
day.
all right. Oh, okay. Great question about the counts.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have to leave, give me 30 seconds because this will blow your mind. All right. I don't look, these are not truth. Okay. These are estimates. So, how do we use this number? We use it in comparison. What I'm looking at here is these are 13,000. This next group is 54,000, or excuse me, that's 130,000, and this is 54,000. What I'm looking at is the ratio. All right. What this is showing me is, hey, you know what? Women's hiking boots is searched vastly more than men's hiking boots. In fact, it's searched almost 3 times as more. That's what I'm doing with the keyword counts. I'm not looking at the hard numbers. I'm looking at the ratio of women's to men's and seeing that there's 3 times as many searches for women's as men's. That's the key when looking at your keyword data.
Okay. A question from Yash. Would would it be wise to use the competitors' keywords research um, to feed into your own keywords, as for example, taking text from their homepage or other metadata from their site and putting it into your own keyword list?
As a way to start, I think it's a great idea. You can, in a lot of the tools like Ahrefs or some of your SEO management tools, you can put in competitor websites and they'll scrape the data so that you can see what they're doing. I think it's a great place to start. I would not duplicate. All right. Definitely don't do that because what you're going to find, and I see this more and more, people tend to think that competitors are doing better all the time. We just have this sense that somebody else must be doing it better. And even if they have a couple of higher ranks, we tend to think they know what they're doing and they're doing it better. And that's not always the case. Do your own research. Use their words as a starting point, but get it, you got to do the research. Use it to inform you, but don't make it the ultimate authority of, and don't assume that they're doing better. I've seen this time and time again. People assume just because they're ranking higher that they're doing better. And the problem is you don't see the ultimate measure, which is their profitability. The ultimate measure of a good business is how profitable it is. And so many times you overestimate what other people are doing. And when I get in and I see not just the analytics, but when I see how a business is running, you want to look for a profitable, sustainable business. And it doesn't matter if someone outranks you for a couple words. You want to be profitable and sustainable. And that is the key to being successful.
Excellent. We have a question from our LinkedIn audience. Nishka says, I'll be switching my career from Japanese interpreter to digital marketing. And
Wow.
so what certifications would Anushka need for that?
Well, you simply have to look around the Simplilearn site and you'll see some certifications there. I'm a firm believer in the OMCP, the Online Marketing Certified Professional, because that certifies you in a number of disciplines of search engine optimization, paid search. But I will say, if you have mastery in more than one language, you may also want to investigate working with some agencies or firms that do global SEO because they are constantly looking for multilingual people that can understand this and apply this. And I will say the experience you get working at an agency with different kinds of businesses and different applications, you can't duplicate that. You will learn so much at an agency. So before going out on your own, take the time to learn from other people and get as much experience as you can. Get paid to get experience, okay? But I will say, if you have mastery of more than one language, your skill set simply there with digital marketing is going to make you a great asset.
Excellent. Slightly related to that, Colette asks if you know of any tools that can track Arabic keywords for the Middle East and North Africa region.
Great question. I've used Word Tracker for the Arabic region. Now it will do a kind of a combination of English and Arabic. I've used that. I think Ahrefs is doing that as well. So that's something that you can look into. But like I said, most of them have a free trial. But if you get into the data and look, it will list country specific, but be sure you not only look at the country, but the languages offered.
Okay. We have a number of questions about the native Google tools like Google Keyword Planner.
Yeah.
And how would you compare those to some of the other tools that you've discussed? Can somebody get by with Google Keyword Planner, or does that just have too many limitations to be entirely useful?
Yeah, I haven't, like I said, I haven't used Google keyword tools for years now, simply because they have not, they're showing you what they want you to see. That's really the case there. They're not showing you, it's so limited. And put it this way, so Google's an advertising company. Google makes almost 90% of its revenue from ads. All right. And so when you go research keywords as an advertiser, Google's going to show you the keywords and keyword combinations that they want you to bid on. Because when you bid on them, I mean, they have the inventory and they're showing you, you're doing research, but they're not showing you the whole full inventory. They're showing you what they want you to see as an advertiser. And so it's so limited. And like I said, every year it becomes more and more limited what they let you see. And so I'm not a fan of the keyword tools that Google gives you. Every time I get in and use them, I'm more and more disappointed. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a hypothetical from Anshal, who asks, and I'm not sure how this necessarily relates, but he offers a couple of options. Which one would be better? Best hiking boots for men, and then another term, best hiking boots for women, and then red best hiking boots. Or would you combine them into something like best hiking boots for men, women, red?
I would not combine them. Now, my question would be, what are you doing? Now, because if you're selling this, if this is e-commerce, you're going to have separate men's and women's sections, and then you're going to have a specific boot, and then if that boot is offered in red. that will be a feature or an attribute of the product. So depending upon, whether red makes it into a title or it's mainly going to be a product attribute. Now, if I'm creating an article or a video about the best hiking boots for men, that's one video. If I'm creating a video about the best hiking boots for women, that's another video. Best hiking boots for mountains, best hiking boots for desert, best hiking boots for Hawaii. All of a sudden now I'm well beyond thinking about specific attributes. Now I'm looking, and because the attribute and the location of how people will use these hiking boots, that's searched on much more than a color. And so I'm going to use that in my content marketing. And honestly, out of best hiking boots, really, that's why I have this. I could probably come up with 30 video ideas for my content marketing. And every single one of them is going to help me optimize. It's going to help me with my paid search. It's going to help me with my social. And so that's what I'm using when I'm doing a lot of keyword research is what kind of content can I produce that people want to see? What questions am I answering?
Excellent. Um, I think I'm going to close out with two questions from people in different situations. Sanjeev has an ethnic food e-commerce portal and app
Ooh.
for B2B, for
Oh, wow.
trade, for restaurants, for convenience stores, that type of thing, which is a great business.
That's great. Yeah.
How would he differentiate between the brand-led keywords versus wholesale food category keywords?
Wow. Wow. That's amazing because you're kind of limited to the search function within that app. Um, unless you can get some data about how that search function works, because I'd love to know how your B2B customers are using it to search. Um, are because that would be my question is, are they searching generally or are they searching for brand? My guess is they would probably be searching generally and then look to see what brands are available. That's how most people tend to function is we search based on our need first, and then the brand will learn what brands are there, and then if we have a brand preference, we'll use it. But 90% of the time, we don't have that brand in mind. We're looking for the general product. And so I would kind of go with that. But unless you could get some insight into how that search function works within that app or within that closed system, it's really hard to give some recommendation there. But I would go with general first, but then have your brands prominent.
I'm thinking that he's probably wondering, for people who are using search engines, how they would find his portal and how they would find his app.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But the other aspect of that too, that as you discussed it made me also realize that in that particular industry, it might be important for a business to look at a brand and then evaluate what its product line is. So in that particular case, the customer might actually look brand first in some instances. But I think your interpretation of that people are going to look for the category of the type of food product, and then look at brands, and then probably in that particular case, they'll loop back to see what other products that brand carries,
Mm-hmm.
to finish that cycle. So that's
Yeah.
it's a really great question, Sanjeev.
Yep.
Thank you. And then we have Devanshu. The last question. He is a watch blogger, so,
Ah,
which I assume that he is blogging about wristwatches and timepieces, and
so fascinated by all of this. I love it.
the
Love it.
key. So the keywords he finds are very limited with high competition. Is there a way that he should proceed to solve the problem in that environment?
Mm, that is a great question. And you're going to run into this, especially with specific, um, very specific industry types, or very specific where there's not a lot. And this is what Google runs on. Google runs on high levels. And that's where it's very effective in doing things like this. So wherever you're in a product or an industry where there's low levels of searches, or it's very limited, you're going to get limited data. You're going to get, so a lot of this, you probably, that's where I would focus on learning from your analytics. And I would make sure, and now this may get into some advanced stuff. I would be looking into, I would connect your Bing webmaster tools, your Google webmaster tools, any tools that will give you a sense. And because both Bing and Google, when you connect the webmaster tools, you'll get some additional keywords that people are using to find you. I love how Bing will even show what searches you're appearing for, as well as your click-through rate, and get a sense of that. So it's one way you can get access into some of the keywords that search engines use. But that's kind of one thing that I would look at to see how I can get some additional data. I would also, that's where some competitor research may help, and look around. But one of the things I would also look at, and that would be some of the SEO companies like an Ahrefs, Moz Tools, trying to think of a couple others. They will also show backlinks. They will catalog all the links that are going to a competitor site, your site. So it'll show the results of who's linking to your blog. And that's great PR. When you see who's linking to your articles and why they're linking, it's a great way to start a relationship, and go look at those articles of who's linking to you and see what they're saying. It's a great way of kind of getting a sense of what the market is all about.
Excellent. I kind of fibbed because we do have one last question from the LinkedIn audience.
Great.
Napoleon asks, how how are podcasts helpful in inbound marketing? Can you comment on that or give some use cases for that?
Wow. For inbound marketing, I've not seen it so much used, and being a podcaster myself, I'll kind of talk from my own experience. I don't see it so much as an inbound tool. Um, I find it more as a nurturing tool, that once I have, for example, I just did the webinar, I just put my slide up with the many ways you could contact me, and I had my podcast on there. You didn't discover me through the podcast. You discovered me through a webinar, and now I'm telling you, if you want more content, if you want more, marketing insight, go to the podcast. So for me, it's much more of a nurturing tool. It helps me grow and nurture my audience. And that helps bring in additional, it builds loyalty, it builds more relationships. Podcasting as the inbound tool, I think, is very limited because people have to find it somehow. And right now, podcast discoverability is kind of tricky. It's kind of hard. The vast majority of people will subscribe to a new podcast solely based on word of mouth, recommendations. Um, when they go, very rarely do people go to a podcast like on Spotify or Apple and decide, I'm going to listen to that one, and that one. They listen for recommendations from their friends, from colleagues, or like this. If they hear someone that they like and they happen to have a podcast, they'll subscribe. So, from an inbound standpoint, I'm sure there are some that might be doing it well. I've just not known about it. I see it more as a nurturing and as a community builder rather than an inbound tool.
Thank you. So this has been a wonderful session. I always feel guilty at the end of these sessions because we invite people to put in their questions. We get 100 or more questions and we can't answer them all. So I apologize on behalf of Simplilearn for all of the people who asked a question that Matt couldn't get to today. Again, it's pretty clear that this topic deserves another go round. So we hope that you'll come back for a future version of our part 2 of this masterclass, and maybe you'll get a chance for Matt to get to that question. Right now,
Well, I will say, Stuart, what we can do is we'll go ahead and collect all these questions, and then I would recommend that subscribe to the Simplilearn blog, subscribe to the Simplilearn social, because we could always get to answering these questions and publish those out.
Yes, that is an excellent point, because we do use the interest level of the questions to help us decide what topics to cover in our blog or resources section of
Yep,
our website.
absolutely. Yep.
So thank you for that reminder. And I'm going to share a couple of last things to close out the webinar. We've just finished the question and answer. So first off, I want to say thank you to Matt. And then I'd like to do a quick final poll to ask people about what they think would be the most interesting things to study for their digital marketing career. So I'll open the poll. This one is multiple choice, so you can click on more than one. There's different disciplines within digital marketing, and we do offer courses in all of these through Simplilearn. We also offer combined comprehensive programs like our postgraduate program in digital marketing, which is in partnership with Purdue University. And so we have the resources and the tools available for you to pursue each of these areas or all of them. And in 3, 2, 1, I will share the result of the poll. And predictably, SEO is a very popular category.
As it should be. Yes, as it should be.
It's interesting to see that content marketing and social marketing are the next two most popular. So all of those are important areas in digital marketing, because it's becoming a kind of a 360-degree view of your interaction with your audience and your customers. And so with that, I'm going to, after saying thank you again to Matt and allowing you to say thank you to the audience, Matt.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate the questions. Fantastic questions. And with the questions, and I will say, like I said, when I do keyword research, it would be 4 or 5 days. So thank you for your patience. We tried to condense this as much as possible, but looks like we might have to have a follow-up. But really appreciate your time today.
Thanks. And just want to mention that we do have a fairly new program. It's been running for since about November of last year, and it is called Skill Up. And Skill Up is free access to some of our instructional content, over 600 skills, over 1,000 hours of video content available. Again, access to this program is free, and what we've just added to the program is completion certificates. So as you complete these self-study courses, you will get a completion certificate, and that's something that you can share on your CV or social media. And I'm going to drop the link into the chat so that you can all see how to access the Skill Up page. I'm going to announce the next webinar. Next week is not digital marketing. It is problem solving for business processes. And personal friend of mine, Dr. Len Bertain, we'll be talking about how important it is to solve business problems before you try to automate them.
Hmm.
Everybody talks about robotic process automation, digital transformation, converting processes to digital, but you don't want to automate a process that hasn't already been optimized, or you don't want to automate a problem that you haven't solved. So he will talk about how to solve the business problem and the process problem before you apply the digital technology. And here in the chat is the link to that. And finally, you can connect with Simplilearn by using @Simplilearn on Facebook, Twitter, search for Simplilearn on LinkedIn, and those are all the same ways that you can get to Matt, right? At Matt Bailey. Why don't you go ahead and give your social media handles? Just real
All
quick.
right. I'm going to put into the chat a recent podcast I did on keywords. Specifically, we talked about keyword research and how important keywords are. So I put that in the chat there. You can go right to my Megaphone account to see and subscribe from there. On LinkedIn, I am Matt Bailey Matt Bailey SL on LinkedIn. So feel free to contact me as there. And I don't do too much on Twitter or Facebook. I'm a little bit protected there. I focus everything on business. So that's the primary place. And thanks again.
All right. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you again, Matt, for a marvelous session. And this really concludes the webinar. So we invite you now to log off of WebEx, and we will be sending out a link to a recording of this session so that you can review the material, and that'll come by email tomorrow. We'll be sending out proof of attendance certificates to people who have stayed with us through the live webinar. We will be mailing those out over the weekend. So check your email for those, and we look forward to seeing you at future sessions with Simplilearn. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.